Welcome back to page 121. Today we're going to dive into the Monster Manual and the Monstrous Manual for the second edition. We're going to take a look at hill giants, how they were in the Monster Manual and how they are in second, and which way I've decided to go with at my table. So first, of course, we'll start with the Monster Manual. Published in 1977. This book is the go-to for AD&D for monsters. So, hill giant. They are common, 1 to 10 appearing. Armor class 4. 8 plus 1 to 2 hit points. Or 8 hit dice plus 1 to 2 hit points. Number of attacks 1, 2 to 16 damage. They can hurl rocks for 2 to 16 hit points of damage. Special defense see below. Magic resistance is standard, intelligence is low, and they are chaotic evil, and they're large. Hill giants always dwell in caves or similar underground habitations. These layers are typically of forsaken areas. Hill giants sometimes have other creatures and will be guarding, and they will be dire wolves, 2 to 8 of them, 1 to 3 giant lizards, or a group of 2 to 8 ogres. If more than 4 hill giants are encountered in their lair, numbers 5, 7, and 9 will be giantesses, 6 hit dice and treat as ogres for damage and attack, and 6, 8, and 10, which will be young hill giants, roll percentage dice for size. But it doesn't give us charts. It's kind of weird. Adult hill giants are able to hurl rocks from 10 feet to 200-foot distances, inflicting 2 to 16 hit points of damage. They are able to catch similar missiles 30% of the time. 50% of hill giants also speak ogre. And the description is hill giants have tan to reddish-brown skins, brown to black hair, and red-rimmed eyes. They typically dress in rough hides or skins. They use any form of weapon available but favor clubs. Hill giants, like any giants, especially in early D&D for me, which was in the early 80s, hill giants were great bags of hit points. You could put them out there. Their armor class was hittable, but they were tough to bring down. And I always loved giants, but giants became kind of ineffective once you introduce weapon specialization, some of the other stuff that comes in Unearthed Arcana. So hill giants definitely needed an upgrade. And this again goes to my statement that AD&D originally was written for up to about 12th level. This creature would be quite a challenge for anybody up to around that level. But once you get past that a little bit, they're not so formidable. Now we're going to take a look at how he compares to our good friend from the Monstrous Manual, the Hill Giant in second edition. And then don't worry about memorizing or anything. I'm going to hold the two entries side by side and compare the differences. There's not a ton of differences behind them. One big difference they made in the Monstrous Manual, and this came from the various 3-ring binders they were doing at the time, or just before this, is that monsters all got 1-page entries, which was great. And this is just a maturation of role-playing as a whole. All of a sudden, we start seeing full 1-page entries for the monsters. So here we go. Intelligence is still low. They're still chaotic evil. 1 to 12 appearing. Armor class 3 or 5, parenthetically. I'll explain that in a minute. Hit dice are 12 plus 1 to 2. 12 hit dice plus 1 to 2 hit points. Damage is 1, or attack is 1. Damage is 1 to 6 or by weapon. The weapon is 2 to 12 plus 7. Hurling rocks for 2 to 16. Special defense is nil. No magic resistance. They're 16 feet tall, so they're huge. And hill giants are selfish, cunning brutes who survive by hunting and by terrorizing the raiding nearby communities. Despite their low intelligence, they are capable fighters. They are oddly simian and barbaric in appearance, with overly long arms, stooped shoulders, and low foreheads. Even though they are the smallest of giants, their limbs are more muscular and massive than those of the other giant races. The average hill giant is 16 feet tall and weighs around 4,500 pounds. And it talks about the females a little bit. Hill giants' natural armor class is 5. This is reduced to an armor class of 3 when they wear their crudely sewn animal hides, which are the equivalent of leather armor. Nearly all hill giants wear these hides, which are a symbol of esteem in some hill giant communities. The more hides a giant has, the more kills to his credit. Only a few, 5% of the giants, fashion metal armor from the armor of men they have defeated. These giants have an armor class of 0. Like any other race of giants, hill giants carry their belongings with them. A typical hill giant will carry 2 to 8 throwing rocks, the giant's wealth, and 1 to 8 additional common items in these hide bags. Hill giants speak their own language and a common tongue, and additionally, 50% of the time they speak ogre. In combat, hill giants prefer to fight their opponents from high rocky outcroppings where they can pelt their targets with rocks and boulders while limiting the risks posed to themselves. Hill giants' favorite weapons are oversized clubs, which do 2 to 12 plus 7 points of damage, double the damage of a man-sized club plus their strength bonus. They hurl rocks for 2 to 16 points of damage. Their targets for such attacks must be between 3 yards and 200 yards away. They can catch similar missiles 30% of the time. And then it goes on to talk about the lairs and the females and young that might be in there. But the important difference is really in their hit dice. That's the significant difference. And then, of course, the possibility for lower armor class. So let's take a look at the two side by side. So here we have, get them both into the shot. There we go. We have the hill giants here, which are AC 4 base. They're AC 3 base in second edition. 8 hit dice base. They're 12 hit dice here. That gives them a much better combat table in the second edition. Damage is 2 to 16, but this is 1 to 6 or by weapon. And it adds the strength bonus in second edition, which is interesting. We had done that for years playing first edition, and we still play first edition. I just adapt things for second. But we had added in giants to hit and damage bonuses for years, simply because it always made sense to me. Why, if I'm wearing a girdle of giant strength, do I get the bonuses, but a giant who has that strength naturally doesn't? And I know that Gygax used to say in the original books that was rolled into their hit points and hit dice and armor class. So that was all accounted for, but I still think it's better to give them objectively more damage. So here we are, 2 dice 6, 2 to 12 plus 7. That's 2 dice 6, which average 7. So 7 plus 7 is 14 damage output, as opposed to here, which is 2 to 16, which is going to average something like 12 points of damage. So you get more damage output here. Here it's better at 2 to 16 because you're actually adding, if you add in the strength, attack, and damage. Here it doesn't talk about adding the strength attack. I do that at my table. It just makes sense to me. I do similar things for other large creatures such as demons, mesoloths, any kind of big creature that would have greater strength just based on its size. I go ahead and I add the attack and damage, making them that much more formidable. Once we add the attack and damage, even for the original hill giant, players become much more cautious with them. Once I started using the second edition hill giant in the early 90s, players got way more cautious, and hill giants are still among the weaker of the giants here. So this is a case where I did go over to something directly from second edition. I took second edition giants and I said, hey, yeah, let's go ahead and use the second edition giants. I love the first, don't get me wrong. Fought those guys for years, over 10 years before I got this book. But once I read up the second, I thought, well, it's just a more complete thing. It's completely compatible with my game. Why the heck wouldn't I use it? So there you have it. That's just a quick look at hill giants from first and second edition. Let me know what you think of this. If you want me to do more comparisons of monsters from first to second, I'm thinking of doing other giants and then dragons and some changes. I was never one that was against second edition. It's just that I didn't see a need to go over to second edition once I had everything from first. That being said, I bought all the second edition books with an eye toward whether I wanted to go over to it or not. And I've adapted plenty of stuff from second. We play first, but there are definitely elements of second and even third in my campaign and the way we play. But there you have it. I want to thank you for your time. Thanks for watching. Please take a look at the Patreon, see if there's anything you can do to help me out there. And like and subscribe. And I'll see you next time on page 121.